to that, I had explained at the Board of Education meeting that I've only been here, this is only year 2 for me, but last year we were able to accept all of the general education peers on the wait list. This year, we had general education peer role models who remained on the wait list even after we filled our classes. And we've continued to have families who are either moving into district or finding out about the program who are interested in participating in the program. So we're continuing to see an increase in general education peers who want to be involved as well. Right now, we have 23 general education peer models just for the FORCE program who want to be able to participate for next year. And that represents 6 additional general education peers from when we last spoke at the April Board of Education meeting. So I'm coming to you because I think we have a need potentially for an additional class in the ELC program for the 22-23 school year, which would bring us up to 5 total classes and 4 FORCE classes. I'm happy to talk a little bit about why I think we're seeing some of these patterns, and I also think we need to talk about what is the impact, but I don't know if there are questions about that information.
Yeah, are these families that are moving, are these generally families that are moving into the district? Is this what we're seeing?
So these are families who, most of these students are coming from the birth to 3 system, not all of them. We have certainly had families moving in from other communities or states. That's not the majority. But
yeah. And in terms of the ratio, I guess I need, you articulated the numbers, but in terms of right now, the ratio of special ed identified students to general ed students, what is that now?
When you say now, do you mean this school year or?
Oh, no. I mean, anticipated for next school year.
Great question. So if we are talking about having a 5th class, 4 FORCE classes and 1 3s class, we're looking at basically a 50-50 ratio between special education students and general education peers. It actually might be, the ratio of special education students might be a little bit higher than that, to be totally honest, in a class or 2, but we're around that 50% mark.
Now, and with that, would we be clearing the waiting list, or would there still be students that would not be, we would not allow?
A great question. So we would be, if we had the 5th class, the 4th FORCE class, we would be clearing the 4's wait list. We would not be clearing the 3's wait list. We actually have 4 students on the wait list for the 3's program at the moment, but that's 1 class right now, and we're already talking about a significant expansion. So
and the 4, if you were to clear the 4 students in the 3's program, what would that mean for resources?
You mean if I were to add the 4 students on the wait list into the 3's class?
Yeah.
We would have a very large 3's program. So right now, the 3's class is very difficult to plan for. I should be transparent about that. Yeah. All I know right now are the birthdays of the students who are potentially transitioning into that program next year. What I've historically seen is there's lots of variability. Sometimes early intervention works, and those students come to us and they don't need services anymore.
Right.
Other times people move in and out and needs change. But we right now have several students 8 students with identified needs who are projected to be in that class for next year, although the majority of them are spring birthdays, so that class will grow over time. And we have 4 peer models slated for that class at the moment. If I were to take the other 4 threes on the wait list, I have 8 peer models plus potentially, 7 or 8. We're looking at a class size by the end of the year of 16 in a threes program, which I think is not advisable.
Okay.
Tracy, let me ask you a question. If we're increasing the class by adding another teacher, how are we in terms of space? Other things that could be impacted by, as you said, increasing the program by this large. I don't know, restrooms, recess monitoring, lunch assistance, all the things that little 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds need help with.
Yes, this has been a topic of conversation, and Laura has certainly been involved in these discussions as well. The space, we can make that work. It will require, I don't want to minimize the work that is required from a facility standpoint and from a building level standpoint, but we have room to accommodate these classes. We've spoken about the need for teachers and paraeducators, which I think is an obvious need. You open up a class, you need adults to supervise that class. The other thing that I want to flag related to our ELC program is, many of these students receive related services. So within the ELC program, the teacher is also the special education teacher for the students in that program. So when we hire a teacher for the class, we have those supports covered. We also have related service needs. My primary concern around related services right now at Hurlbut is in the area of occupational therapy. We have a full-time occupational therapist in that building, and I will be honest, her schedule is tight right now. Not all of these students that we're talking about in the ELC program receive OT, but that's the one related service that I would not be surprised if we need to have a conversation about some additional time needed to support those services.
Okay, well, we'll monitor that.
So if we added another class to the fours program, what are the resource needs?
On the financial side, Tony, I think we're looking at about all in, assuming that these individuals will take our benefits package, about $165,000.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much what we're looking at. When we think of the 2, so you
Right.
take 165 by 2.
Yeah.
I don't know at this time truly where we will be for next year and whether or not we will have the capacity within the budget just to absorb this. It's still a little bit early to determine that.
Well,
Yeah.
so you have 3 ways of doing it, right? If you decide to do it, one is you absorb it and
Mhm.
you do without on other things. 2 is you don't absorb it, and sometime next year we have to go to the Board of Finance for a special allocation. Or 3 is you take the excesses this year and we basically take a portion of the excess this year, and we have a non-lapsing account for pay for this next year, right? There's kind of 3
Correct.
ways of doing it.
Yeah.
Or we don't do this, or we don't do this, right? That's just the
Correct.
4th option, right? I would hate not to do it. So then the other is, how do you pay for it? I don't know, Peter, Melissa, what do you think?
Melissa's eating, so I'll talk first. Well,
Okay.
There's 3 aspects. One is that you don't want to offer education, yet you don't want to offer education and lack the resources, right? I mean,
Right.
The whole point is to do it right. And then I think the 3rd option is probably how you apply it, because the calculus doesn't always work out right. You don't really know until you start, according
Right.
to Tracy, right? Because of the birthdays. So you probably apply some funds that we have to it, and you do it right. Would be my advice, right? The most important thing is to do it right, because anything short of that sort
Yeah.
of sets you up for future problems.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think obviously absorbing it in the budget is the preferential path if we can, but I recognize, Phil, that is challenging. And we don't have a complete set of information at this state. So,
Yeah.
as Peter said, the most important thing is that we, provide the best education we can for the students. And I think, I've heard Tracy speak in past meetings that, getting kids into our buildings as early as they can is beneficial for everybody, the general education students and the special education students. So I think it's in our interest to grow our program as long as we don't have space constraints and as long as we're not precluding us from doing other things that we need to do. So
If I may, so, doing it right involves, let me just make sure I understand. Doing it right involves opening 2 classes, correct?
Yes, from the original proposed budget,
From the-
which is
yeah.
one additional class from the April discussion.
Okay, so in opening the 2 classes, the cost is going to be, Phil, 320,000, did you say?
Let's say 3. Well, on the growth side, Tony.
But no, because I think didn't you cover one part of the cost of the first class already?
We did. So I think we're able to cover like about 100,000 or so. So we're really
Right.
looking at about 230,000.
Yeah.
So we're looking at about 230,000 over, that's correct?
Correct.
And that 230,000 over is after we get the tuition, which I know is minimal when you're talking these kinds of numbers, correct?
Yeah. So that's after the $100,000 for tuition. Correct.
Okay. And then as far as the paraprofessionals, and I know, you need a paraprofessional in each class. I'm talking about, given the number that we have now and where we might have 2 in 1 class for a variety of reasons, if the children are spread out more, would the same need, would there be an increase in the number of paraprofessionals? Would it be 2 or maybe would it be 1?
So we've started having conversations about, exact class lists and the number of paras that are needed in each class. I'm working very hard to at least have one class that has one paraeducator, but there are multiple classes that are going to need 2 paraeducators just based on the level of need and the ages of the children. I mean, these are children who need support with toileting and, walking to any sort of activity is kind of an event in and of itself. There's just a lot of management around very small children.
No, I understand. I was just thinking of conversations we had about, yes, and especially when we don't have them as spread out, because I've been in that program. They're adorable, and they have a lot of needs that have to be met. So 230,000 that's with us using part of the operating budget
No.
next year?
No, using the tuition, using
Correct.
the tuition offset.
Okay, so it's 230,000, correct?
Yes.
That's what we need to come up with. And that would be challenging given our budget. So, and I understand what Tony says about the different things. I'm also wondering if, well, I guess we can look at in our overall budget, as part of our exercise in doing our overall budget, we had looked at potential areas where we might, it's not going to be 230,000, but we might be able to offset that a little bit more. And I think that would be helpful, but I'm talking like maybe 30, 40,000 more, not.
Yeah. Lisa, I think we in terms of what we will be able to absorb in the budget, I think we really want to know what that will be truly until we have completed our hiring process, because as you know, the turnover for this year has been pretty significant.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
so I think it's just best for us just to wait and not necessarily commit to any particular
Sure,
dollar
okay.
amount. But
Okay,
I
that's
think,
fair.
yeah, I think it's worth having the discussion with the Board of Finance about the non-lapsing account, because in addition to in addition to what we will need for these two classes, we also know that we will need additional funding for health insurance. In addition to that, we don't know what impact overall the inflation is going to have on pricing and overall costs for the district and everything else that we need to do. Ideally, I think it would be better if the Board of Finance will do the non-lapsing account, because it eliminates the need for a special appropriation, which will negatively impact us in terms of the MBR,
Mhm.
which is the minimum budget.
Yeah. I think that's the best way to go. I think this is really two separate discussions at the board level, right? One is, I mean, this discussion about how to pay for it is fine here, but I think the discussion at the board level has to be around the approval of adding another section, right? And then, and then and which I'm assuming that would be a yes. And then Phil needs to figure out how we're gonna pay for it.
Correct. So then, Tony, I guess if I'm understanding correctly, the next step is that we would have a discussion next on the 14th.
Yeah, I think, and I think that's not a discussion about finances, just a discussion about adding the extra section.
Correct.
And then, assuming that's, I mean, we should basically say we had that discussion about how to pay for it. We don't know exactly yet, but we'll find a way to pay for it either by absorbing, probably combination of absorbing some of it and rolling over some of the savings from this year if the Board of Finance will allow it, right?
Correct.
But remember, you're going to have to make room for it next year and the year after and the year
Well,
after that.
that's some of the discussions that we've been having, right? Because we don't know if this is a blip. It could be a one-off, and I'm not quite sure how this is going to flow through, and if we will continue to see this trend in the future years. So for right now, I'm concerned just to be a one-off, and I guess we'll just have to continue to monitor. We're just working closely with Tracy as we normally do.
I don't know. I personally don't think this is this may not be a long-term trend, but I don't think it's a one-off either.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you may see this for the next couple of years, and then it either will level off or go back down. But I think this is something you're going to see for the short or medium term, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and if that is the case, then I mean, it will definitely will have an impact on our budget for future years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a way we can kind of look into some of this too by like looking at, maybe some of the summer camp enrollments this summer for the really young kids. Are those increasing? The field club, Aspetuck Country Club, are those membership numbers, are they higher than they've been, or are they younger families that are coming in? I mean, that might give us some kind of guidance as to whether this is a short-term trend or a blip.
I keep on asking, the town leaders about doing a better job on our demographic. I mean, if we're a small town, we should basically have, these numbers should be at our fingertips, right? In terms of the demographics, who's moving in, how many kids are in a family, what ages. I mean, and I don't think we do a good job at all on that.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm in the camp that when we do it right and the word gets out, it was done right, that like if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
Like the parents are going to get dialed in and go, this is the way to do it. And you'll continue with that. Those amount of classes.
I do agree that this will likely prompt more interest and more knowledge about the program. I also, though, agree with some of Tony's sentiments about kind of a shorter term increase. We talked about this at the annual instructional update as it pertained to older students. But I think, the number of special education students in the ELC program, I think might potentially be more of a short-term blip. I do think we're experiencing the impact of the pandemic for children who have really only been alive in a pandemic. They are not interacting with peers in the same way because people are nervous. They're not seeing family members in their, toddler years in the same way they would historically, because families have been concerned about, elderly grandparents and health impacts for them, traveling with a young child, all of those things. So that need that we're having, I am hoping will be more of a shorter term, although I'm not convinced it will be only 1 year. And then to Peter's point, I think kind of the benefits for the population as a whole is a separate conversation, and kind of attracting families to a program where things are going well, I think will be an exciting separate conversation. And when we have more peer role models there, there's also
Right.
slightly less of a drain on the budget.
Yeah, and I do think, generally speaking, just, this evidence plus what we're talking about today, plus the demographers and what they've said, I have a feeling that over the next several years, we're going to see resource constraints at the lower schools as we see larger population cohorts coming in, and the upper schools that we're basically there, the larger population cohorts are moving out of the system. And I think that I just from looking at the data, it looks like the upper schools will have less students, but the resource constraints, I think, are going to be more in the lower school areas.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. So I think we take up this discussion at the next week, right?
Yeah, it's listed on the draft agenda.
Yep.
Preschool enrollment 22-23 is the way we put it on.
Yeah, and we it's for, we should have language to approve, right? It's not just a discussion, it's a approval as well.
So how the technicality is then how do you word it? Like enrollment and
No, not enrollment, but just preschool, just addition of additional preschool section.
additional.
Approval of an additional preschool section.
Okay. Just for technicality, the other section, was that voted on?
Well, let's vote on both.
I think it was talked about, but I don't think it was voted on.
Yeah, it has a potential budget impact, and so I think we need to vote on both.
Okay, I'll put it in as approval of 2 additional preschool sections.
Yeah.
Or
I think we do
discussion
need
and
to-
approval, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
discussion and approval. I
All
think.
right. Thank you. Okay. Thanks, Tracy.
Thanks, Tracy.
Maggie, have a good weekend.
Yep, you
Thank you,
too.
Tracy.
Okay, Mike, you're up.
Sounds good. Right now, a whole lot to update with facilities, grounds maintenance. We finally got the change to all cooling, or at least all fresh air cooling. Heat's off, chillers have been turned on, everything's running well. We had some little minor hiccups, all taken care of, resolved at this point. We've had some great weather, unlike what we've had since prior to our May meeting. So we're able to really maintain a lot of fresh air, damn near 100% most of the time. We haven't been that hot, we haven't been that humid on a general basis. So that's a plus with, COVID and things like that. And just in general, just recycling that air and getting more fresh air in as possible. This has been an unusual spring, let's say. So everything's going really well. Just getting prepared for graduation, getting prepared for the end of the year ceremonies and different things going on around campus, beautification and all that. Other than that, We don't have a lot to report. We're getting ready to get going with all the capital once July 1 rolls around. So that's all I have for you guys. Any questions you have for me specifically?
Everything all buttoned down for graduation?
Yeah, it's going to be similar to last year. It's going to be on Stadium Field. It's just going to have a little rotation to it. Not much of a change, just to keep the sun out of audience eyes. So everything's going, and we're just getting prepared just in case we have foul weather, because you just never know. So we have to have a backup plan for the gymnasium for both events, the moving up for the middle school and the graduation for the high school.
Mm-hmm.
They're setting everything up on the Sunday, the 19th. The company will be here to set up the stage and deliver the chairs and all those things. So everything's going well.
Great.
I just have a mechanical engineering question.
Sure.
You know, it's good not to have to rely on AC for multiple reasons. One is electrical power use, but opening windows and fresh air is great, except this week I've been laid low by allergies, right? It's brutal. And I was wondering if you have to double check filters and things, because there's so many allergens, you know, and they load up the HEPA filters quicker than keeping the windows closed.
Definitely springtime we get on to them a little bit more often. We're due for a filter change probably about the time school ends, which will probably pull that off. And we're inside the units all the time. There's always something going on, checking coils, making sure we're clean. Filters have seemed to have been actually really clean, considering all the fresh air that we have opened up.
Good. Capital projects, any, how are they going? Anything significant to report on those?
Nothing significant. I'm still working with Jackson, Colorado, Jack Davidoff from the building committee. When he gets back next week, we're going to get back together. We had a meeting about 3 weeks ago, just to go over a couple of things with C5. He wants to fine tune a couple of things with energy management and some refrigeration issues. We have a number of items on order. Some need to wait till July 1, just because of the way the money transfers. But nothing significant. Tennis courts, they actually wanted to get into this week. I had to put a halt on that to do the crack repair and repainting until we're done with school. It just requires water hookups from the intermediate school all the way back to the tennis courts. And with their camps going, not their camps, with their end of the year festivities going on, recess, I think it was a great idea. So we're just going to hold off till July. And we're going to stagger all the repairs for that one. It'll go probably 2 little courts, 2 single courts first. Get those all wrapped up and painted. That has a lot more of the geotech, which is the actual layer of the epoxy that goes on top of the concrete. So those are a little bit more work involved. And then we'll shut the other 2 double courts down and get those taken care of. But Hinning is hungry and ready for work. So I told him middle of July and we'll get that project rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Been working with Richard for the door at the intermediate school and the window for the nurse's office. Everything has been ordered through Carey from K-Man Glass. Doors ordered, windows ordered, 10 to 12 weeks lead time just because of special paint. But he had reported to me yesterday, he called and said he's starting to see a little bit of an uptick in speed, that they're actually shipping sooner than the expected ship date. So Capasso will be cutting those 2 holes. So at this point, we're slated to cut as soon as they're done with the windowsill project, which starts off July 5th, the day after the 4th of July.
Mm-hmm.
That's about all I really have.
Will that be completed by start of school? Sounds like you just.
We're going to be right there for that that last week of August. Correct.
Hey, speaking of doors, have we actually gone around the entire campus just to make sure that our doors lock? They stay locked. People can't,
Yeah.
people don't wedge them open with books and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, even before any of these incidents have happened, we have security, and they constantly do rotations outside, physically checking doors, making sure that they're shut. If they happen to catch a door open, which isn't very often, they handle it right away. But yeah, I mean, they're on top of the doors. I hear everything as soon as we have an unusable door or a door that won't latch, I hear about it immediately. So yeah, that's something that has been going on since what was it, 2014, when we hired all the extra security. Mm-hmm. So it's something that has never changed. A little bit more heightened now. Hopefully, people are a little bit more aware with the circumstances that are going on with the country. But yes, it's something that we've done.
Yeah.
And continue to do, and will continue to do.
Richard, anything on your side?
No.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Mike.
Tony, before we jump to paving, the next item, I just want to give just a quick. We have been thinking about bringing the maintaining of refs in the field and other athletic fields back in house. So that's something that we are exploring. And I know we had some concerns, a few years ago when we had an incident up in Refson, but I think we're at a point now where we're in a better place to take care of those fields. But ultimately, before we make that decision to bring that back in house, we will ensure that everyone is appropriately trained to not only just cut the grass, but actually how to properly maintain those kind of fields. So we're considering it. It will not be something for July 1.
Yeah.
It will be more for the start of next spring.
Yep.
In terms from the financial standpoint, I mean, at worst case scenario, we'll be break even, but there may be some cost savings involved in this. But I think just in general, just in terms of the level of ownership for the fields, I think our current staff, they do own everything that they do, and I think we'll be in sort of kind of the same or a better place.
Yes. Yeah. And remember, we don't want to suffer the wrath of the baseball parents again.
We have had that discussion several times. So I think everyone here is on the same page with where that is concerned.
Okay. Yeah, let's talk about it when you're ready. Okay. Paving.
Yep. All right. So the paving, I just wanted to again just speak with you guys. Middle school, DPW did a great temporary repair for us for the bus drop-off loop. Fear is, and what it looks like is that next year, coming into winter, leaving winter, we're going to have a lot more picking up. We're going to have a lot more deep potholes, ruts. It's holding up relatively well now. Weather's perfect. There's no heaving. There's no water getting in there. But we would like to aggressively move on to the paving of the middle school. And if we could also the high school, it's just getting to be that point as well. A lot of breakdown. And we have quotes from several companies, but the one that we're more confident with is the company that the town uses, and that's American Pavement. They're on the state contract, so they have the best pricing. They have the manpower to get in and out of here in relatively a couple days. They told me 2 days for the high school, 2 days for the middle school, less manpower. So we're paying more for asphalt as opposed to manpower than the other companies. So this is something that we would definitely like to move forward with.
So what would you pave? It would be
roughly about
this would be
6,000 to 9,000 or so.
Yeah, the middle school alone is about 24,000 square feet with curbing. We're talking 66,750, and then we'd have to restripe and paint everything, which another $2,500. Grand total is 69,250. The high school parking lot is about 70,000 square feet. You're talking about 114,650 for paving, and then striping. Obviously, it's twice as much, many spots. About $4,600, so about a total of $119,250.
so the total would be
Total somewhere in the 190,000
range.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. There was a $500,000 number thrown around at some point.
The number that we used initially was we used the gentleman doing our
1 second there, Mike. Let me jump in real quick. So when we gave that number, we used a similar formula as Tecton was using for.
All right, I get it.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was just.
Yeah.
We kind of just made it up. Oh, well, not made it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, correct. Because included in that numbers was a lot of contingency.
Right.
So we really just wanted to be to have an apples to apples comparison, but we did reach out to
Right.
vendors, and these are actual pricing based on current conditions.
Right. So the last discussion we had was around paving was during budget time where we kind of wanted to work with the town in terms of their paving schedule to see if we can kind of do it all together, right? I think this is, the question, I think this is, we have to go back and have that discussion again, because I don't remember where we left off with the town and what the town is doing on paving. I just don't remember.
Yeah, the town has ongoing paving.
Right.
They're paving this year. And I think it's just ongoing pavement, and even in the ARPA funds as well, there's money set aside
Right.
potentially to continue with this. What I'm not quite certain though is how the Board of Education really falls into the paving schedule.
Okay.
And I know that there's just a lot of focus on that, maybe not more so on the town roads and less so much on the Board of Ed lots.
I think this is going to require another discussion with the Board of Finance, because I'm sure you're not going to prioritize paving over other things in the next year's budget, right?
We probably won't be, no, because
Right.
we do have other items in the budget come. Yeah, that will take a higher priority.
Right. So if we were to do this, what would be your proposal?
I mean, for right now, just based on the current condition of the middle school lot, because where we're seeing a lot of the, I guess, the spreading, or just where we're seeing a lot of lifting, is really where we have the buses traveling, right? So that's the heavy traffic in the area. So that's where we're really seeing it. So that's why we're really pushing the middle school lot over the high school lot if we had to choose one.
But
My recommendation would be to just use some of the existing funds from this year just to take care of the middle school.
can you get it done this year? Can we?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
We have the funds. If the committee and the board agrees to do this, we can definitely get on schedule to have it done for this year.
What does everyone think? I mean, we have the funds to do it if we can get it done this year.
Yeah, I think that probably makes sense. I mean, we've been talking about paving, I feel like every year it gets pushed and pushed. And, not to bring a personal element, but I do drive that middle school loop every morning. It's a little dangerous. So yeah, I think it's probably something we have to do.
I recall it wasn't coordinated with the town. That it seems that we left it on to our own.
Yeah.
To our
I
own.
don't-
I think we tried to coordinate with. the
Yeah, I
town.
think we tried, right? I don't
Yeah.
remember I honestly don't remember the outcome.
Right. And my input is certainly, and I don't want to make work, but it would be nice to sort of have a map of the road of the all paved areas and have like red, yellow, and green, like, so we know what the really bad areas are and what sort of should be worked on and what's sort of good. And then
Are you talking about this? So
Sure.
Peter, are you talking for the middle school?
Yeah, I mean, I can't envision like what the problems with the roads are. I'm a WISP person right now, right? So it'd be good to just to show
So Peter,
what the problem is and what we'll fix and what the money buys, right? So people.
yeah. So this money might, if I'm correct, this is repaving of the entire parking lot, not just a section of it. We did consider that, right? Just to do one section, but I think from a financial, just in terms of long term, and even if we fix on the heavy trafficked area by the bus loop, at some point we're still going to need to do the second half as well. And the recommendation from the company really is that we're just better off just doing the entire lot.
Right, the equipment's there, the workers are there, right? That's half the expense. Just do it. When you
Correct.
capture their time, right?
Yeah. So I think well, this needs a full board decision. We should bring this to the board next week.
Sure.
And I think Peter's idea of if you could, as part of this discussion, have a little bit of a visual on what actually, where in the campus, so everyone can understand what the money is by, right? I think that's actually a great idea. If you can
Yeah.
do that as part of the discussion, just have a visual of the campus just to pinpoint exactly the areas that are paved, and also those areas that, are there areas that a year from now are going to need it as well, or are we done for a while if we get this done?
Oh no, Mike, go. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
What?
we're not even close to being done. And
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we haven't had pavement for forever. Back of the high school is pretty rough. The back of the middle school is pretty rough. The bus loop for the elementary school. I mean, yeah, we could start this year and go every year for the next 10 years, little by little.
Huh?
Yeah.
Well, that makes a graphic even more important because it's got to be used for a future cell too, right? And
Yeah.
there's
think
no way of doing this.
Yeah, I think that the problem that we have had, right, is that we have, just like with a lot of stuff, we have had the financial constraints, right? And we have
Right.
always just said, kick whatever we can or put, to defer items that can be deferred a little bit longer. And we have done that quite a bit. So I think we, just like what we're doing for the duck cleaning in the vents and everything else, is that we need a reset. We need to reset, and then we have to start to properly to seal them,
Yeah.
just to extend the
I
life.
guess the question is this the understanding that there's more to do, and this probably should be a regular program every year, I guess, but honestly, we have to be very careful, because if we make a decision around campus configuration and buildings and all of that stuff, we don't want to go too far with that. But just to envision potentially, what could be going on a couple of years from now, just make sure that we're spending money in the places where is going to be maybe the least disruptive spots, right?
Yeah, that's why we chose the middle school. It's just from a strictly a safety
Yeah.
look. It's definitely it's an issue. That's why we
Okay.
need to start. But we can come up with some sort of a color coded map as to estimated years. And I believe Jonathan has a rating on all our parking lots, so I'll get back in touch with him and
Okay.
we get this.
All right.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Yeah, and just in terms of for future planning as well, right? So I think in all the plans that well, maybe not all of them, but all the options for Tecton, I think the parking lot of the middle school probably maintain, definitely the high school.
Yeah.
And I think there's some variation of what would happen at the middle school. So this is why we're sort of kind of going for these two and not the others.
Okay. Well, let's have that discussion next week.
Okay.
Next item on the agenda is optimization committee. Nothing really to report there. I think the facilities optimization committee made a recommendation. I'm trying to get Tecton to come back to the Board of Ed to, answers the questions we have, talk about the FOC's recommendation. Haven't been able to really kind of get Jeff to commit yet. So there's going to be a special meeting once we get some dates from him and figure out what we can accommodate in terms of having a quorum of the board. In the meantime, the Board of Finance is doing some of their work on affordability as well. So there wasn't much to report from the last meeting. I don't know, Richard, if you have anything.
Well, I think the last meeting is the last meeting.
Right. That was the last meeting. Yes. So now it's, comes to us, comes to the Board of Finance to do their work. We have to actually take on the recommendations and work from there. And that's why I'm trying to get Tecton to answer the questions we had when they came previously. And I'm sure we're going to raise more questions. Okay.
I think the your committee's probably aware of it, but there was a vote and two scenarios were approved.
Right. It was 2 and 2 plus. You can go back and see what they are. I think we discussed them. But I want to have Jeff and Tech down back to discuss those in some more detail. All right.
Okay.
Financial update, Phil.
I will leave you.
Thanks, Richard.
Take care.
So we're getting closer to the end. So I think everyone will be happy for that. So we are seeing a slight increase in our projected end of year surplus, about $235,000 month over month. There probably will be some other changes as we go forward, as usual, as we clean up recs and stuff like that. There's really the main driver for this change for this month really has to do with excess costs. Earlier back in about December or so, we did report that we may not be receiving as much for excess costs. We did actually, in fact, pretty much got very close to our budgeted amount. So all in all, we did receive about an additional for the second report for the second period. The first amount we have was $374. We should be receiving an additional $498, which would really put us very, very close to what we have budgeted. In addition to that, the reimbursement rate was increased from 70%, or the actual reimbursement rate was at 80%. Our budget was at 70%, and this is just based on the historical rate. So we're pretty much about 18,000 after you subtract the 60,000 that we paid last month. We're pretty much about 18,000 over budget. We did see some other changes in terms of salaries. A lot of that again is driven just by turnover, FML, and the like. We did release an encumbrance hold that we had for health insurance. So we're receiving a net benefit savings of $42,000. There's a big number there of $44,000 for the sick bank. So that's pretty much that we're just paying people from the sick bank, approved time from the sick bank. But a lot of that is offset from savings that we have in the salary line. We did reduce transportation by $58,000. And that is pretty much just a truing up based on attendance to the various programs.
Phil, quick question for you. We have there's $1 million really of the excess is really salaries and benefits, right?
Yep.
Okay. And so we're going to end the year this way, but it's not miraculously going to get better next year at the beginning of the year. So are you going to start accruing savings at the beginning of the year until you get back to, because you basically are assuming another normal year next year, right, in the budget?
Okay.
Right? So are we going to basically then start the year accruing savings because you're not going to miraculously fill all these spots?
No, and you know what? So maybe the hope is that we will fill the spots going into next year. I mean, there will be some spots that will be more difficult than others to fill, but the hope is that we'll be fully staffed. There are some shortage area, right? We have the psychologists and stuff like that. So when and we also have to think that we took where we are right now, or where we projected that we would be, and we made some changes going into next year, and that's one of the reasons why we saw a really the increase for salaries was not significant, because we took some of that what we're seeing this year and we applied that into next year. So I guess your question is, are we going to start accruing savings at the start of the year? Maybe at the end of maybe more as we get closer, Tony, to close to the second quarter, and not so much in the first quarter. because we're going to start up in September, so we can project as to where we're going to be beginning in September. But I think the better time to do that is closer to the end of the second quarter, so closer to December.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And again, so a lot of the savings is in salary, and when you look at it, the majority of that is turnover, FML, and
Yeah.
and again, and then that directly ties as well also to health insurance. So it's one of those things that there was really no way to predict that we were going to be in that place.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess my question is going to be, when do we have a discussion as to whether this is more medium-term structural rather than well, it's COVID related, it's the sign of the times, we're going to get back to normal. I mean, it's, I guess at some point, and I guess this is a discussion for next year probably,
Correct. Yeah.
to see how this is coming along, because the question is going to be naturally asked about, okay, you had 1 year of savings, 2 years of savings, it's COVID, we know that, and then we go into next year. If we start not filling these spots or having trouble filling these spots, then there's a discussion around, there's a broader discussion that needs to be had, right?
Correct. So I think the natural time to do it, I guess we can start having that discussion, Tony, then at our October meeting, because by then we'll have an indication as to what our the staffing level will be. So I think our October meeting will be the time to start having those discussions.
It is ultimately going to be a question that's going to be more of a budgeting question that's going to come up
Correct.
at some point, and it's probably going to come up in the fall of next year. That's
correct.
Yeah.
So I think October is the time that we start having those discussions, because we will have a good sense as to what the trajectory is in terms of for staffing.
Yeah. Okay.
So that is all the news that's fit to print. We're in a good place for dental. So we're okay. We're okay with that.
Any questions on the finances? Okay. Theater repairs.
Okay, so two things. I just want to back up real quick, just to give you guys some things that we are going to purchase. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned this earlier. We're purchasing additional equipment for the grounds department, and we're also going to be purchasing some storage cabinet for instruments at the high school. I think that's basically just in need of that. So just to keep you apprised of what's going on there. Now, transitioning to theater. So last month I did mention that we had to replace the hoist. We did get a full quote to replace all, I think 11. I think we did 2 already. So there remaining 10 or so, and that's coming in at about $75,000. So I'm not quite sure what to do or how we want to do that. We can phase it in. It's more expensive if we do a phase approach. I think the quote that we had to replace 2 was $25,000. And again, that has to do with, Peter, as you had mentioned previously, with the manpower, because each time you come out, you're paying more money for the staff to come out, and they're not local. So we have to pay the additional cost to do that. And I know, Melissa, you had a concern about approving items that probably should have been a budgeted item. So I'm not quite sure what direction you want to go. I did have a conversation with Liz Morris in terms of what we plan to do, and just having things just be a part of our overall capital budget. I am going to reach out to a service vendor that she has in the theater industry, who really knows a lot about theater. So a few years ago, we had a shift where theater was pretty much a standalone, right? And then we made a shift where we brought them into our operating budget. I think mentally she has not shifted to operate in that way. But we did meet last year, and there is a need for us right now just to continue with those discussions, because it's been some time since we've really invested with anything for the theater. And I know in previous years we had partnership with, I do believe it was WEF. I do, no, Western Arts, but I think Western Arts has changed in terms of how of directly funding programs within the school. So
Just 1 second, Phil. Remind me, we do have a theater budgeting line, right?
we do.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much just a watch. So they give us some money for theater, for money that they collect,
Yeah.
and then we offset stipends and
Yeah.
additional other costs that they have. So the change was that previously, because theater is really considered to be a club, so
Right.
all that money was in a club account, and then
Right.
we shifted that here.
Yeah.
So
Right.
they were managing all of their expenses and doing all that. So now it's just a shift, and I see the need now that I do have to work more closely with the group, seeing that it's a part of the operating budget.
Yeah. Yeah. So this expense goes against their this expense would go against their it goes
Well,
against
really-
their line, right?
I'm sorry, Tony.
This expense, just to understand, the expense then for these things go against the theater line, right?
It theater line in the operating budget.
In the operating budget, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to have a larger discussion about this at the meeting on Tuesday. I mean, again, it's pretty significant. Or what do we do?
I think we should discuss it at the meeting. Does that delay?
No.
I know you said they had labor issues or anything.
No. It just was just a cost, additional costs each when we piecemeal it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think when you're looking at an item like this, and we do have the line item in the budget, and I just think for transparency purposes, it should be discussed publicly
Yeah.
at the meeting, and that way, if it's posted in the agenda and people object to it or have a concern about it, they can come and ask questions,
Yeah.
and we can talk about it as a board. But I mean, I think you raised some good points, Phil. It's an education process, right? I mean, if the theater group can learn, our process a little bit better and incorporate these types of things into our budget earlier, that's clearly the preferential route going forward.
Right.
But
Right.
people make mistakes, and we'll work around it. Let's
Yeah.
not let the theater kids suffer by not having. I don't even know what the hoist does, but I'm sure it's important.
It is. So what it says, so it really moves the backdrops.
Yeah. Okay, so that is important. And
is
our
important.
theater is a shining star here in Weston. So let's
Yeah. No.
keep our eye on the ball,
Yeah, and I do think that these kinds of expenditures, I mean, purchasing cabinets is one thing, but these kinds of expenditures, I think that are not in the budget, I think we're just generally more comfortable having the board kind of vote on them in public. Yeah.
Okay, we'll have the discussion on next week.
Okay.
They enable them to do Peter Pan, right? Because then Tinkerbell can
Yes.
fly across the stage.
So approval of the May minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the May minutes?
I move to approve the meeting minutes for May.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussions or edits? Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes. Minutes approved. Any other business to discuss? No? Okay.
No.
We can start our weekend, I guess. Well, some of us can.
Sorry, Phil. Sorry, Mike.
All right.
Thank
Can
you.
I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay. All right. Have a nice weekend, everyone.
Have a nice weekend,
Uh,
everyone.
May
You as
good.
well.
Bye.
Bye.